Welcome to Rachel Uncensored, one of the few places on the internet that you can find an uncensored version of me. Hello, I'm Rachel Ballinger, and welcome back to another solo episode. This is the first episode without my book. Oh no, I didn't prepare anything. What pisses me off today? Well, honestly, it's kind of what we're going to talk about today. We all know I'm a feminist, right? I believe in the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes. Yes, men are born with testosterone. Cis men are born with more testosterone and are built bigger and stronger for the most part. I'm aware of that. When I say equality, no, that does not mean you get to punch a woman in the face. Why on earth is that a man's first reaction? When you say equality, they go, well, then I can punch you in the face. Equality, right? Why do you hate women? Why do you want to punch women in the face? When I meet a man smaller than me, my first thought is not, I can punch him in the face. What? And feminism doesn't mean I hate men. That's its own entity. It means that women and men are equal in my mind in the social, political, and economic senses. Ya fucks. Anyway, getting that out of the way. The back of my truck says feminist. There's a huge feminist sticker on the back of my truck. Without it, I look like a raging MAGA person. I have a giant Ford red pickup truck. Anyway, but everyone, all my female friends, love my truck. And I do too. And I ended up going on a camping trip with a bunch of older lesbians with my girlfriend last week. And we call it the Feminizer, but they were calling it the Lesmobile. Doesn't matter. Two things of the same name. But her aunt and I started talking, Abby's aunt and I started talking about feminism. And she's actually a scientist. She is an engineer. She has masters in chemistry and engineering, and she is a genius. She has so many specialties. She works with NASA. She works with aerospace. She works with all this stuff. She has like top level federal clearance for things. She knows things that I can't even imagine exist. So anyway, I was talking with her in my drive home, and she obviously since she has been a scientist for 50 years, she has gone through a lot of discrimination. She actually wasn't allowed to have the level of clearance she has now back in the day because she's a lesbian, and they wouldn't give clearance to anyone that was gay because it wasn't socially allowed to be gay back then, back when she was in her 20s and 30s. And she's in her 60s now. But they wouldn't let her have clearance because someone could blackmail her with her gayness. Basically, if she were closeted, they could, and they found out that she was gay, they could blackmail her for the info she has and blah, 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 blah. And it was harder for her back in the day because people wouldn't let her do things. They didn't want to work with her, blah, 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 blah. And she's not outspoken feminist because she grew up in the world where she had to be more reserved and not ruffle any feathers just so she could do her damn job, right? So she has so many female scientists, role models, just women that she adores because of the walls they were able to break through and the things they were able to do with the world and society against them, right? Yes, this is a feminist rant, but this is the truth of things. And so her and I got to talking about the women in history who have invented, discovered amazing things, whether that's in science or technology or just Dr. Seuss's wife apparently had a huge hand in all of his books, but he gave her zero credit. So we were talking about all the women that have done these amazing things in history, but the credit was never given or stripped from them, or they had to publish it under their husband or their brother's name because they weren't allowed. It wasn't technically a rule that you weren't allowed to get a PhD or you weren't allowed to publish in journals, but nobody would allow it. So in the 1800s, there's like one woman that got her PhD in a different country, obviously. And then for centuries, they didn't allow it again. and you can't publish in certain things unless you have a PhD. So while they were allowed to apply and submit, no one was accepting women's findings and blah, blah, blah. So if women created something that they wanted the world to know about, they would publish it under a man. Or they would try and publish it, they'd deny it, and then a man would steal that idea and publish it as his own. And I know this seems far-fetched. This seems like, oh my God, a feminist ranting. Burn your bra already. This is history. And there are a lot of podcasts that go over things like this. But another one, putting these women out in the world, saying their names, I think is a good thing, because I hear a lot of, when I talk about feminism, and listen, on the day-to-day, I'm not walking around screaming feminism at people. It just comes up in conversation, especially when people see my truck. A lot of the time, two things that men always say is, well, if there's no men, then who's going to protect you? Protect us from what? The answer is men. So you exist to protect us from you? That seems counterproductive, a little redundant, unnecessary, if you ask me. But then another one is, men are better. I've heard men say this online. I've never met one in person because that's gross. Actually, any man I've met that's extremely sexist or misogynistic, I have gotten to shut down very nicely. It's very, very fun for me. I'm always kind about it. But another one is they always talk about how, well, men are the ones that have created everything. They're the ones that have built and created and engineered all this stuff. Because women either weren't allowed to or did, and a man had to take, whether he did it on purpose, like he stole the credit, or published it so that the idea could get out there and published it for a woman, he still got the credit. There are a lot of Nobel Prizes that men got stealing women's ideas. So when men say, there's a weird ass noise happening outside my house. Hold on. I think Miso's barking. 1 second. Sorry about this, guys. Sorry about that. There was something going on. There's children playing in the yard next to us, and my dogs apparently don't like that. Oh, but Blaze is fine with it, as long as you're not another doggy out there. Anyway, the whole reason I'm talking about this is because I want to, on Rachel Uncensored, uncensor some of the women in history. What was I talking about? Oh, that men always say, misogynistic, sexist men always say, like, whoa, men have created everything. Like, you guys wouldn't have anything without us. False. False, false, false. I mean, yes, men have created a lot. I'm not saying women created everything and everything was stolen from them by men, but men were given the opportunity and the encouragement to invent and discover, and women were not. And yet they still did. And yet they still did. Didn't they? I know I've touched on stuff like this before, but today I want to take a look at some of the women that were censored throughout history and uncensor them a little bit. Again, I know other podcasts have done this, but one more person echoing these women, the better. But I wanted to start on, Abby's aunt was mentioning Einstein's wife. This is what led me down this rabbit hole of looking up women that were amazing and got no credit. Einstein's wife, which is Mileva Einstein Marich, she was the wife of the famed physicist Albert Einstein. And I want to give credit where credit's due. There's some controversy on how much help she had in Einstein's discoveries and his journals. But they have discovered throughout history that she was extremely smart as well. She also studied physics and mathematics at university level. She met Einstein in school. They had 3 kids together. We don't know what happened to the daughter apparently. Apparently the records are unclear on that. But there is controversy in the science world on if she was, everyone agrees she was pretty much just as smart as Einstein. Some think that she was smarter, and through it was later after their passing, Einstein's son published the letters between Mileva and, I think that's how you say it, Mileva and Albert. It's so weird calling Albert Einstein Albert. So good old Al and Mill would communicate through letters a lot. And their son later, once they passed, published all their letters. And it kind of spiraled into this thing. There are a lot of people that really want her to have done everything, and he was just the name. There are people who are like, let's just look at the facts. Unfortunately, we won't fully know what happened, but apparently she was a huge help in his scientific method, basically. She was his sounding board. She was just as smart. They talked science together. He ran things past her. Now, that doesn't mean that she wrote everything, but she definitely, if anything, was a muse. You know, I looked into this. Abby's aunt was like, she had a huge part in everything. And there are a lot of things that show that, but it's not complete fact. So I don't want to completely say she was, you know, had just as big a hand in discovering all of his things as he did. But I will say, I'm sure she was a huge help. But this led me down the path of trying to look up when women were allowed to publish in scientific journals. And it said women were generally excluded from universities and scientific societies until the late 19th, early 20th century. Scientific journals were mostly edited by male scholars who rarely accepted submissions from women, partly because few women were formally trained or allowed to hold research positions. So they weren't allowed to be researching. Therefore, they could not publish in journals. By the late 19th century, more journals formally accepted papers from women because more women earned degrees and research positions. There was no official universal start year, but roughly 1860s to 1900s, the first wave of women publishing research papers in journals in Europe and North America. In 1920s to the 1930s, a much broader acceptance in most scientific fields. So again, I just kicked the camera. So they weren't allowed to publish until 1860s, okay? And then once they were allowed, a huge wave of women started publishing journals, okay? This goes along with, that doesn't mean that women were dumb before 1860. That doesn't mean women didn't care about science until 1860. That doesn't mean that women weren't doing science until 1860. That's just when they were allowed to publish. Just like there was a huge wave of people that could write with their left hand once it became legal to write with your left hand. Just like there's a huge wave of people with autism because they finally discovered how to diagnose autism. It's one of those things that it existed and then it looked like a huge wave happened after it was allowed, but because it was allowed and we figured it out. Okay, anyway. So then I looked up the women that created or did amazing things and didn't get credit for it, or a man was credited instead. And there is so much, just so much. I'm going to go over a brief few, and then if you guys want me to dive into any of these, please let me know down below. I just want to go over these briefly, name them, their year, and what they discovered and what happened, like why they didn't get any acknowledgement for it, so you guys can understand that this has been happening forever, basically. Okay, now, please forgive me if I butcher names. Again, I'm not very good at it, you know. Rosalind Franklin, 1920 to 1958. She was in the field of molecular biology. Her X-ray diffraction images of DNA were critical to discovering the double helix structure. You know the double helix structure? We all learned that in high school science, even earlier, I believe. This woman used X-ray diffraction images of DNA. Her work was critical to discovering the double helix. But two dudes, Watson and Crick, received the most fame and the Nobel Prize after using her data without proper acknowledgement. So these two dudes found her discovery. She shared her discovery with them. I don't know, I'm not deep diving it, but took her discovery, claimed it as their own, and got a Nobel Prize for it. And she wasn't mentioned. Oh, my girlfriend texted me. I got to make sure everything's okay. Home Chef. Home Chef is our sponsor for today. These days, it feels like there's no price difference in eating out versus staying in. And to make matters worse, there are so many unhealthy options out there to sift through. Home Chef can help you save money and eat healthier with their fresh, delicious meal kits delivered straight to your door. Users of leading meal kits have rated Home Chef #1 in quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. I've done it before. They are easy and delicious. Whether you prefer classic meal kits with pre-portioned ingredients, quick 30-minute recipes, oven-ready options, microwaved meals, or a dedicated family menu, Home Chef has everything you and your entire family needs for hassle-free, delicious dinners. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering my listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box, plus free desserts for life. Go to homechef.com/Rachel. That's homechef.com/Rachel for 50% off your first box and free desserts for life. That's homechef.com/Rachel, and you must be an active subscriber to receive your free dessert. Okay, I just have to put eggs on the front porch for our friend. And then Liz Meitner. Meitner. An entire podcast could just be me attempting to say names. Her field was physics. She co-discovered nuclear fission with Otto Hahn. This woman co-discovered nuclear fission, but only Hahn got the 1944 Nobel Prize in chemistry. Meitner's theoretical explanation made sense of the experiments and launched atomic research. But only the man got the credit. He got a Nobel Prize for all of it when she did half of the research. Blaze is getting stressed with me. I know, Blaze. Isn't it frustrating? This woman co-discovered nuclear fission. I don't even know what that is, and she discovered it. Jocelyn Bell Bernal. Her field, astrophysics. She discovered pulsars as a graduate student, but her male supervisor and another scientist got the Nobel Prize in 1974. She has since received major recognition, but not the Nobel. She was a graduate student, discovered pulsars, don't even know what it is. Wait, what's a pulsar? We should look at it. Is that has to do with like GPS? Yeah, it's a pulses of radio wave and other anyway, I'm pretty sure that has to do with GPS. She discovered it, and her teacher, her supervisor, and another scientist got the credit for it. I'm pissed. I'm pissing. Esther Letterberg, 1922 to 2006. So this human lived in my lifetime. Her field, microbiology and genetics. Pioneered techniques like replica plating, don't know what that is, discovered the lambda phage, a model virus, and did vital genetic work. Her husband, Joshua, won the Nobel Prize in 1958 with little credit given to her. Her husband stole the credit for whatever the fuck those science words were. I'm pissing. Okay, now, there's a lot that happened in science, but then I looked up inventions. Like, what inventions? Because they're always like, men invented everything. Poop. No. This one caught my eye. Tabitha Bobbitt. Sure, we'll say that's her name. I'm so sorry I'm butchering it. 1779 to 1853. This woman invented one of my favorite tools, the circular saw. Tabitha invented the circular saw, but didn't get credit for it. She was a Shaker woman who invented a prototype for the efficient lumber cutting, but because she didn't patent individual inventions, men who later refined the circular saw got the credit for inventing it. Wait, I need to look up when women could get a patent. Hold on. This makes me angry. The U.S. patent system was established in 1790. Legally, any quote-unquote person could apply, But under early 19th century laws, married women usually couldn't own property, sign contracts, or control their own earnings. This meant married women often had to file through their husbands or male relatives. Single women and widows had more legal independence and could apply directly, although it was rare. The first known American woman to receive a patent was Mary Kies in 1809, the method of weaving straw with silk or thread. She needed permission from her husband under the laws of the time. Married women could not own property, sign contracts, or control their own earnings. Ah! The anger within me. I am fueled with it. So, that was in what it was 1790 was when when patents were established. Tabitha was born in 1779. She was born before patents were a thing. I'm so angry. I'm livid. Margaret Knight, born in 1838 and then died in 1914, invented a machine to fold and glue flat-bottom paper bags, which revolutionized grocery shopping. So the paper bags that we take things home in, she invented a machine to create those. What happened, though, was a man tried to patent her design on his own. She had to fight him in court and won, but her contributions were long overlooked in standard histories of industrial inventions. This woman, the man tried to steal her invention. She had to take him to court. She won and still wasn't given the credit because it was the 1900s or the 1800s. Disgusting. Again, if you want me to like deep dive into anybody or any of these people or anyone you want to know about, I am down to do this. Let's uncensor women throughout history, okay? Oh, this one pissed me the fuck off. Mary Patrice Davidson Kenner, 1912 to 2006, all right? She invented an adjustable sanitary belt, which was an early version of modern menstrual pads with a belt. So she invented something that was a belt that you could put basically a rag, napkin, whatever, in your underwear and use it as a pad, okay? Because they didn't have the stickiness that pads have now when they didn't have tampons back then. So she tried to patent her invention in 1950, but this is going to piss me off. But when the company learned she was black, they rejected the idea. So her innovations never reached wide production during her time. It is one thing to be a woman. It is another whole other fucking beast to be a black woman. Josephine Cochrane invented the first practical automatic dishwasher. She built and demonstrated it herself in 1886, but her name is rarely mentioned, and the invention was popularized only later under companies that took over the production. So just companies took over. They're like, we did it. It was us. We're not going to give this human, Josephine, any credit. No. Oh my God. Ruth Wakefield, 1903 to 1977, invented the chocolate chip cookie. This is my sister's idol, Ruth Wakefield. She invented it at her Toll House Inn. Nestle struck a deal with her to use her recipe and name the Toll House cookie. But she never patented it and only got a lifetime supply of chocolate in return. Ruth Wakefield invented the chocolate chip cookie, and Nestle bought the recipe from her using chocolate. Oh no. That makes me so angry. Oh my God. Okay, this is going to be the last one. And then I think I'm angried out. Elizabeth Maggie, 1866 to 1948, invented the original Monopoly. She called it the landlord's game, designed to show the negative aspects of land monopolies. Of course she did. Of course a woman invented something to show the negative aspects of monopolies because they're terrible. They're terrible. They're not good for anybody except the one person that owns the company that owns everything. But what happened was Charles Darrow popularized it in 1930, selling it to Parker Brothers as his invention. Maggie's version was mostly erased from the official story until historians rediscovered it. I am so pissed. This woman invented Monopoly, and Charles Darrow just straight up stole it and said, I did it. Me. It was me. I did it. And then everyone was like, okay, let's just erase her from everything. And then historians finally rediscovered it. I'm pissed. This is just something that has happened throughout history. When I drive around my truck, men drive past me and shake their head at me. They hate it. Not all men. I'm just talking about the shit ones, okay? But this is why feminism matters, because of bullshit like this. Men didn't give us rights. They kept rights from us. They didn't create everything. They either stole things from women or didn't allow women to create. And it's sad. And it's pathetic. My cousin Andrew, he's cis white male, an amazing human being, I love him, said something to me the other day that said, white men aren't, he's a white male. He said, the only strength of a white man as a whole is the ability to sense a threat and neutralize it. And I looked at him and I was like, I agree, but please explain. And he said, women, they are so much smarter than us. When we realize that and we try to suppress them as much as we could with our muscles. People of other races and cultures, so much better than us at everything. And we saw that and suppressed them as much as we possibly could. And I thought that coming from a man, a cis white male, was so amazing and hilarious. Now, whether it's 100% true or not, I don't know. But it's so true. Why would you stop women from doing something unless you're scared that they're going to succeed at it? If you thought women are too dumb to do science, to sign contracts, to deal with their own money, why wouldn't you just let them? Let them attempt. What's the wrong in that? If a woman sucked at science, then she wouldn't be able to discover anything or create anything, right? That just makes sense. So why would you stop her from attempting if she wouldn't succeed at it? You're afraid that she will succeed and do better and actually create something and prove that women are in fact equal to men. If you think that immigrants are going to steal all our jobs, doesn't that mean that they're more entitled to them if they're able to steal them? Because an employer is going to give it, if they have no racial bias, they're going to give the job to the best candidate, are they not? So are you saying that white Americans are not the best for the job if an immigrant can come in and quote unquote steal them? I just feel history keeps repeating itself. Feminism is not a negative thing. It means equality. It just means let everybody do the best that they personally can do, regardless of gender. Don't stop someone from attempting something, unless it's an evil thing. But like, what's the harm in women being doctors, lawyers, scientists, engineers? What's the harm in that? Anyway, I've decided on solo episodes, I kind of just want to start deep diving into women in history. I can do one woman. I can deep dive into one person, one invention. You give me the fucking name and I will do it. I will do my homework, as I feel like shouting their names from the rooftop is important. Keep shining light on women and what they've done. I know my audience totally is already on my side with this, but hopefully it maybe educates some and maybe it leaks into someone else that isn't in my thought process. I don't know. I'm not looking for a fight. I'm just here to just shine a light on women that have done great and didn't get the credit for it when it was their time. So again, let me know if there's anyone you want me to deep dive into, discover, rediscover, give praise to, give credit to. I'm here to do that. I just thought that'd be fun. I want to do something I'm interested in, and I'm definitely interested in that. I will try and do research that is peer reviewed Like, I'm not going out and interviewing people, but I'll grab it from credited sites. Again, that's why I was Albert Einstein's wife. As much as I want her to be the one that did everything, there's no evidence to prove that, but she definitely was a sounding board for him. She was just as smart. He spoke very highly of her and her intelligence. So, but it's sad because she got no credit for anything, not even a shout out for being married to him. He had schizophrenia in the end. That's a rough one, man. That just sucks. All right, but that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this short solo episode. I wanted to kick off maybe something we're going to do new this year to finish out the year. But I love you all, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Rachel Uncensored, the only place on the internet where you can find the uncensored version of me, Rachel Ballinger. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like, subscribe, or follow, or do whatever this platform tells you to do so that you can get notified every time I post a new episode. Love ya!